Editing can make or break your video. The edit is where you can add your own style, set the tone, create a mood, add music and sound effects. But there are some classic beginner mistakes. So to help save you a ton of time, speed up your workflow, and make your footage look much more professional, here are 10 video editing mistakes every editor should know. Hey everyone, Steve here from Learn Online Video, and today we're talking all about beginner editing mistakes. Avoid all of these whenever possible and you will see a huge improvement in your edits. A big thanks to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this video. This is where I'll be getting my music and sound effects to help demonstrate these tips and techniques. Starting with mistake to avoid number 1, overusing transitions. I know it's tempting when you first get a transition pack. You want to whip from one shot to another, then spin into the next shot and flip into the next, but overusing transitions can detract from your video and feel chaotic. Now, don't get me wrong, there is absolutely a time and a place to creatively transition from one shot to another, but it should be exactly that, creative. The transition should help progress your story. Use them purposefully and make them meaningful. Take this shot of a ball being kicked into the back of the net, for example. These two shots work great using nothing but a simple cut. We could of course add a rotating transition between these two clips, but this really isn't necessary. It detracts from the action and doesn't serve any purpose. Whereas if we were to use this car as a wipe transition to the driver, we'd have a much more creative and purposeful edit. Number 2, poor organization. Yep, definitely not the most exciting part of the process, but organization is going to make the whole editing process so much easier. Rather than just randomly importing files from all over your computer into your editing software, make sure you have all your footage, music, and other assets in one place. Organize your assets in a way that works best for you so that everything is easy to find. Have a folder for footage, a folder for music and sound effects, images, graphics, whatever you like. Now, when you import this folder into your editing software, it's neat, organized, and you know exactly where everything is. Number 3, flow state editing. Now, a mistake I see beginner editors making all the time is simply editing while surrounded by distraction. This will massively impact your edit. You want to be in a flow state whilst in the editing process as much as possible. Flow state refers to a mental state in which a person is fully immersed and engaged in an activity to the point where they lose track of time and their surroundings. It's characterized by a high level of focus and concentration, a sense of effortless action, and a feeling of being in control. But the only way you'll be able to reach a flow state is to limit distractions. Put your phone on silent, turn off notifications. This can be easier said than done, of course, particularly if you work in a shared office, but try to limit distractions as much as possible. Put headphones on, listen to music, whatever it takes. Being in a peak performance state will speed up your edits, everything will become clearer, and you'll be acting on creative instinct without thinking. This is one of the best ways to improve your edits. Okay, number 4, not using B-roll. B-roll can hide a multitude of sins, add more visual interest to your edits, and help keep your audience engaged. B-roll, also known as cutaway footage, is supplementary footage that is used in video to support and add depth to the main footage, or A-roll. This talking head shot is the A-roll, and the cutaway footage on top is the B-roll. Adding B-roll helps illustrate and emphasize your message or story more effectively. You can shoot your B-roll yourself, you could use stock video or images, it really doesn't matter. Use whatever you feel works best for the story that you're trying to tell. And talking of story, the next mistake beginners make is with pacing and story. Now, most editors, particularly when first starting out, just leave too much in. The edit is 5 minutes when really it should be 3. Holding on a shot too long, adding lots of similar shots to your edit, and even the music that you choose will dramatically change the pace and flow of your edit. Try to keep interest and variety in your edits. A common mistake is to have the same pace throughout the entire edit. Let's say, for example, you've got a 60-second cinematic sequence. If you have the same high-speed pace throughout the entire edit, it's going to get boring for your audience. If you want an edit with a high-speed pace, then go for it, but try starting slow and then building up that pace. Maybe bring it down again so that it peaks in the middle and gives your audience a chance to breathe. Or maybe start slow and build pace throughout your edit and end with a big crescendo. Either way, take your audience on a journey, create arcs in your edits, and this is where story comes in. Do not use shots for the sake of using shots. Yes, I'm sure there's that one clip that you're really proud of because it took so long to plan and shoot, but does it really add to your story, or are you just using it because you like that shot? You can have a great standalone shot, but does that standalone shot work within a sequence? Is it progressing your story or message? If the answer is no, get it gone. But how do you tell a story, and what are some beginner mistakes? Well, poor music choice has to be one of the biggest storytelling mistakes, because music helps set the mood and the tone to your footage. Take this shot of a brutal face-off between rivals, for example. With heavy rock music, this is an intense stare-down between warriors preparing to battle. But switch the track out for something a little bit more romantic, and all of a sudden we've got ourselves a very different edit.
I don't have no time to waste, I'm trying to come back to you, because now I see we were meant to be.
So make sure your music fits the tone and the emotion that you're trying to convey to your audience. For this, I can highly recommend using Epidemic Sound. I've been using them for years, and they make the entire music selection process incredibly easy. Take this shot here of a businessman checking his phone, for example. With free, poorly chosen music that I found online, we have a cheap sounding corporate video that nobody wants to watch. But simply change the music. Let's go with something that feels straight out of Hollywood. Let's make this a scene from a suspenseful crime thriller using this track here. Much better, much more cinematic. And what's great about Epidemic Sound is that all of the music is really easy to find, and this saves you a ton of time when searching for music. So let's say I was trying to find a track for this footage here of an angry mob running through a scene of devastation. Now, I don't know about you, but if I had this angry mob running towards me, I'd feel pretty scared. That would be quite an intense situation. So let's set that exact mood using music. I'm going to type in scary into the search bar, and we now have a list of tracks plus 2 albums. Let's try this thriller chase album and go with this track here. So as you can see, music makes a huge difference to your edits. If you'd like to try out Epidemic Sound for free, you can do so using the link in my description. Plus, back due to popular demand for a very limited time only, you can get not only the standard 30-day free trial, but also an additional 2 months with 50% off when you click the link in my description and use code LEARN50 at checkout. Now, if we really wanted to level up this shot, we could also add sound effects. Not using sound effects is a mistake that I see beginner editors making all the time. Sound effects create a sense of realism, provide context, and emphasize key moments in your video, and this really helps enhance the viewer's experience by making the video more engaging and immersive. So I'm going to download the sound effects of an angry mob as well as something burning, and when combined with suitable music, sound like this. Sound effects really do make a big difference to your edit. Epidemic Sound not only have a huge library of music, but also a sound effects library. Again, a free trial is linked in the description below. Okay, moving on to color grading. A very common mistake when first starting out is poor color grading, especially when it comes to skin tones. Make sure your colors are consistent and enhance the overall look of your video. When first starting out, it's very tempting to crank all of your colors and give everything a very over-stylized look. Less is often more when it comes to color grading. Try not to have everything too washed out and desaturated. Equally, don't oversaturate. You don't want your footage to look like it's been puked on by a rainbow. Skin tones are particularly important to pay attention to. Try to keep your skin tones looking natural. Avoid the Oompa Loompa or Smurf look whenever possible. How your footage was shot plays a huge role in what your colors look like. The lighting on the day, the white balance. So there's only so much you can do in the edit, but as a minimum, make sure your exposure levels are correct, and then fine-tune your colors from there. Number 9, cheap looking graphics. A great way to ruin a perfectly good shot is by adding some crappy looking graphics. When used correctly, motion graphics are visually appealing. They can be used to enhance the video's message and add a touch of creativity. Take this shot here, for example. With the free cheap looking graphics that came with my editing software, this looks like an amateur travel video. But using this film credits title pack I picked up online, we now have a cinematic masterpiece. Pre-built graphics templates are perfect for anyone starting out. These will save you a ton of time and ensure a professional and polished finish to your videos. There are many places to get high quality graphics for your videos. I will link some of my favorites below. Okay, number 10, ignoring the 180 rule. Okay, this one's really important, but what is the 180 rule? The 180 rule refers to keeping the camera on one side of the action so that the viewer can easily follow the flow of the scene. Let's use editing someone riding a bike as an example. We start with this shot here, the bike rider moving from the left to the right of frame. If we cut this with a clip where the bike is moving from the right to the left, it can feel disorientating to your audience. Now, the 180 rule is based on an imaginary line that is drawn between the action or the objects in your scene. If this is your camera, we must not cross this line when editing two clips together. We can cut to a shot anywhere within this 180-degree area, but if we cut from a shot from this side of the line to this side of the line, breaking the 180 rule, the edit can get disorientating and confusing for the viewer. Now, this is a rule and rules are there to be broken. This could of course be a stylistic choice, but understand the rule before you break it. If you'd like to learn more about video editing, storytelling and sound design, then be sure to check out this video here, giving 10 more video editing tips to help accelerate your films and videos. But that's it from me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.